Patience. It is a trait that is very often forgotten and discarded as though it is unimportant. But when it comes to developing your high potential quarterback to be the best player that they could possibly be, sometimes patience is necessary. Welcome back to State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts, and today we're talking about the key to developing an NFL quarterback: patience. Ever since 1992, the Green Bay Packers have been a model of quarterback excellence and consistency. It began with Brett Favre, who was a gunslinger in every sense of the word. He's probably going to throw double digit interceptions, but he can make it up for you by throwing even more touchdowns and airing it out for a lot of passing yards. And as a result of that play style, the Green Bay Packers found success with Brett Favre, and he became their franchise quarterback. Come 2005, though, Father Time is getting to Brett Favre, and he's on the outward end of his career. And in the 2005 NFL Draft, in the first round with the 24th pick, the Green Bay Packers select Aaron Rodgers, quarterback from the University of California. But the Packers have a plan. They aren't just going to rush Aaron Rodgers into action. And for 3 years, Brett Favre continues to be the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. And at this point, the benefits of his gunslinging ability are leaning more into the heavy turnover that is not made up for by a touchdown side of things. In 05, for example, he threw 20 touchdowns to 29 interceptions. And the Green Bay Packers are aware of this, but they are not rushing to put Aaron Rodgers in the spot of Brett Favre. They're not rushing to move on from Brett Favre because they have a goal in mind and they know exactly what they are doing. Because Brett Favre, at this point in his career, the production isn't as pretty as it once was. His touchdown interception ratio is slipping. And as a result, the benefits of the gunslinging style are starting to be outweighed by the negatives. But what he is at this point in his career is a very experienced NFL veteran who was the face of a franchise for over a decade. And with that comes plenty of knowledge. And on the other side of that great mind for football that has accumulated over the years of NFL experience is a young, first-round, uber-talented quarterback who doesn't have that mind for the NFL game because it is an entirely different level of competition when compared to college. Aaron Rodgers doesn't know the ins and outs of the playbook. He isn't yet aware of how to best attack the weak parts of an NFL team's defense, how to play on a short week, how to best recuperate on a bye week, how to place the ball in a tight window, or make a pass that only your wide receiver has a chance to catch. But Brett Favre, in spite of his risky play style, he does have that knowledge from playing for over a decade in the NFL by this point. And Brett Favre continues to start for the Green Bay Packers for 3 years. But now, the year is 2008, and Aaron Rodgers is ready to start at the NFL level. In his first season as an NFL quarterback, the Green Bay Packers go 6-10, but Aaron Rodgers throws for over 4,000 yards. And that 4,000 yard mark, while a lot of good quarterbacks can hit that mark, most of them don't in their rookie season. Because as a rookie, they're still trying to adjust to the game, and they haven't gained that knowledge of how to best attack defenses, of how to know when to make risky throws, trusting your arm to be able to put it in tight windows. And they quite frequently can make rookie mistakes. But while this technically wasn't Aaron Rodgers' rookie year, because he had got some minor playing time in his first couple seasons. This was his first year as the guy for the Green Bay Packers. And he came in not having to deal with the hurdles that so many young quarterbacks do, because he got to sit behind one of the greats in Brett Favre. And despite only achieving 6 wins, 2008 was always going to be a little bit of a reset year for the Green Bay Packers, to allow Aaron Rodgers to utilize the knowledge that he had gained from Brett Favre and to now put it into action and gain some real NFL experience. He threw 13 picks this year, which is the highest that he would ever throw. But he backed that up with 28 passing touchdowns. So there was obvious talent there. And over the next decade, Aaron Rodgers would show why the Green Bay Packers put so much trust in him. Not just to throw him into the wolves from day one, but to sit and let him develop and be patient and learn from the mind of one of the greatest gunslingers in NFL history. The following season, Aaron Rodgers would throw 30 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. And that is something that is always super noteworthy about Aaron Rodgers. And that is his ability to remain safe with the ball. And this is someone who has the arm talent to make almost any throw that he wants. But the thing about Aaron Rodgers most is that he knows when to make those throws and when not to. And from 2009 to 2022, he would only have 2 seasons throwing double-digit interceptions. And of course, your goal as a quarterback is to not turn the ball over. But every week, defenses are doing their best to make you mess up. They watch film on you and try to execute defensive schemes to you outside of your rhythm and make you uncomfortable and make risky throws that you never should have. But for 13 years, Aaron Rodgers rarely succumbed to that. In 2011, he won his first of many MVP awards, throwing for 46 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. And the year prior to that, in 2010, he led the Green Bay Packers to a Super Bowl, the biggest prize of them all, that every 32 teams, that is their ultimate goal, is to win that Lombardi trophy and hoist it up at the end of the season. And in that Super Bowl against Pittsburgh, he threw no picks, notably. And this was a Pittsburgh team that they played against that had one of the greatest safeties of all time and the reigning Defensive Player of the Year in Troy Polamalu. But Aaron Rodgers was able to utilize all of his talent because of the knowledge that he had gained by not being thrown to the wolves, by being allowed to sit and develop and become the best version of himself. In 2018, he threw just 2 interceptions in a 16-game span. And while the Packers would never win another Super Bowl behind Aaron Rodgers, he would have a late career renaissance in 2020 and in 2021. In 2020, he completed 70.7% of his passes, when the benchmark to be an okay NFL passer is that 60% mark. And the best quarterbacks year by year might be around 65, 66. Rodgers completed over 70% of his passes, and he threw the highest touchdown total of his career with 48, which is the 3rd most passing touchdowns ever recorded in an NFL season, behind Peyton Manning's legendary 55 touchdown season and both Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes scoring 50 respectively. And the notable thing about this, even more so, is that historic touchdown number came with only 5 interceptions. So he was connecting on a very high volume of passes, especially in that end zone. And he only threw 5 picks, made 5 errors the whole year. The year after that, he wins a second straight MVP at 37 touchdowns to 4 picks. Another great season for Aaron Rodgers, who at this point is also an experienced NFL vet. And by this time, there's someone new watching and learning from him. The student has become the master, and he has yet another protege watching from the sidelines. And his name is Jordan Love. This is yet another uber talented quarterback prospect with elite arm strength and a confidence to attack the field. A gunslinger mentality that calls back to Brett Favre with great accuracy and the ability to move around in the pocket and improvise if a play breaks down. But sometimes he trusts that arm a little too much in college, and he threw 17 interceptions in 2019. He had all the physical traits that a scout would love, but that high number of interceptions, the gambling mentality of making those risky throws, it was clear that he was not going to be a quarterback with the knowledge to go in and start from day one. And in the first round, once again, while having a franchise quarterback on their roster, the Green Bay Packers select Jordan Love from Utah State University. And for 2 years, he's going to sit behind and learn from perhaps the most talented quarterback in NFL history, and one of the safest ever as well, in Aaron Rodgers. Come 2023, Aaron Rodgers is off on a mission to go save the New York Jets. And now Jordan Love is at the helm for the Green Bay Packers. By most in the media, this was seen as a year that was going to be a reset year for the Green Bay Packers, much like Aaron Rodgers' first year starting when the Packers went 6-11 in 2008. And for the first half of the year, that is what it really looks like. Jordan Love, after week 2, is leading the NFL in passing touchdowns, but his completion percentage is very much down, and he's failing to connect on a lot of passes. So at this point in time, Jordan Love looks like that very raw player that he was coming out of college. But if there is one trait above all that Jordan Love learned from Aaron Rodgers, it is believing in yourself even when the lights are at their brightest, and living for those moments in the bright lights. And from week 10 to week 17, when all hope seems lost for the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love looks like he is not the guy that he had the potential to be. And the Packers are not just going to have a reset year, but a year in which they will be eliminated from even being a playoff contender early on. But from week 10 to week 17, Jordan Love throws for 18 touchdowns to 1 interception. He completes over 70% of his passes in 3 of those games. And in that last game in week 17 against a division rival Minnesota Vikings, he completes 84% of his passes. And all of a sudden, the Green Bay Packers are 9-8, and they have snuck into the playoffs. And in that first game of the playoffs, they were playing against the Dallas Cowboys, a team that had a very good regular season, of course, a historic franchise. And they blow out the Dallas Cowboys in a game where the score made it look even closer than it actually was in real time. And the Packers already won 48-32, but it was even worse than that in watching the game. It was a complete dismantling of the Dallas Cowboys. Jordan Love only threw 21 passes, but he was very efficient with those passes, throwing for over 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, completing 76% of his passes at almost 13 yards per passing attempt and a near-perfect passer rating. The following week, they ultimately lose to the San Francisco 49ers. But it was a game that the Green Bay Packers remained in throughout the entirety of it, even in spite of Love not having his best game. And despite a second round exit, it was not at all a disappointing season for the Green Bay Packers. It was a season that they came into with low expectations, but had a mid-season turnaround and became a playoff team in a year where no one expected them to. And in his first year as a starter, much like Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love solidified himself as a legitimate NFL quarterback, throwing for the second most touchdowns in the entire league. Now, come 2024, at the time of writing, the Green Bay Packers are 8-4 on the season, looking like they are well on their way to making the playoffs, led once again by number 10, Jordan Love, who received a huge contract in the offseason. And there are still moments where he trusts his arm perhaps a little bit too much, but he believes in himself to make the tough throws in tight windows because he knows that he has the ability to. So maybe it's a little bit different style of play from Aaron Rodgers, but Jordan Love is getting everyone involved on a young offense that doesn't have a true number one wide receiver, and he's producing well while doing so. And correction, the Packers are 8-4 under Jordan Love, who was out for a couple games, so they have an even better record than 8-4. We're further on a little bit into the season. But regardless, he is making a big impact on the team, and they would not be where they are if they did not have Jordan Love. And they knew it all along. Back when they drafted him, while they still had franchise quarterback Aaron Rodgers on the team. And they had that same idea back in 2005 when they drafted Aaron Rodgers while still having Brett Favre. Because the Packers know that the key to quarterback development in a league that can be so hard to pick up and play immediately from day one, in a league that moves fast with the best players in the world, the key to quarterback development is patience. And that is all for today's episode of State of the Association. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Nash Roberts.